Welcome to the Dad Show podcast. How y'all doing? Today is part 2.
Our youngest daughter, Summer, she almost passed away in 2018. We didn't know she was type 1 diabetic.
Wow.
Like, we almost lost her.
Yeah.
And it's so incredible because, you know, in 2018 we get rushed down to Children's Hospital. She's in an ambulance. We're driving behind. We get into the hospital and they're doing all their stuff, and we get up to ICU, and the doctor comes in and they're like, "Hey, we're not telling you we can't help her, but we're just telling you, try to be prepared for anything."
Wow.
And our response was prayer. And it was, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, you got it. You have it figured out. We're not going to try to take control. We're not gonna be emotional in your response, in your decision. It's whatever you want to do. And man, that was a tough time.
Yeah.
And so,
Because basically you're taking control off of you and handing it fully to him, giving it to him.
yeah. And it's like, you don't go to the doctors and you're like, what else can you do? You know, you're just, you know, God, the doctors can do what they can do, but you can do what you can do.
Amen. Yeah.
And whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And we were literally at the point where we were praying, the third day that she was in a coma, we were praying, God, if you just want to take her, take her. She belongs to you,
Yes.
not us. That night around 11:30, she woke up, and she was like, "I'm hungry," you know.
Wow.
And my son watches all these videos and all this stuff. He's sitting in the room, and she goes, "I'm hungry," and he goes, "Hungry for the Lord." It's like, what is that? And I know it's a Michael Jr. reference. I don't know. Do you know the comedian Michael Jr.?
I don't.
Christian comedian.
Okay.
Right? And so he has this bit where he's like, you ever met someone who's like overly Christian, you know? And someone will say like, man, I'm hungry. And they're like, yeah, hungry for the Lord, you know, or something. He has
Yeah,
other
exactly,
examples,
yeah.
you know, and that's where he got it from, you know, and it just broke the silence and the stress.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
with the humor.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're all cracking up, and our poor daughter's like, I don't even know what's happening. Like, can somebody tell me?
I've just been asleep and I'm hungry. That's
yeah. I've been asleep for 3 days. And now I'm hungry, which this just popped into my head, but I wonder how hungry Lazarus was.
Oh man. Wow.
Right? Like when he
Yeah.
walked out of the tomb, you
Yeah.
know, and I know she didn't pass away, but still, like, you're down for 3 days.
Yeah.
How hungry are you when you
exactly. Because
come out of the
you can only
tomb?
go like 72 hours or something without food, like, you know what I
about
mean?
it.
And I know they
Yeah.
were giving her nutrients.
Right,
There's,
yeah,
you know, I'm not saying that, but
No. Sorry, folks. She can't eat anything.
at all.
Yeah. So, you know, life's been a battle, but what I realize is that, you know, God knew that me being a military brat would prepare me for adversity, because it does. I mean, you move a bunch of times in 1 year, you've got to figure out how to connect with people. You got to figure out how to, you know, deal with the unknown, the uncertainty of things. Like, you have to learn how to navigate life.
Yes.
And where you're going to live, you know, and wonder, okay, when is it going to happen again? When are we moving again? And I think, I know that God prepared me for all of this through that. And here we are today. You know, I had resigned from the coalition back in October, and it was one of the scariest things I had done, because there's no job.
Yeah.
You know, like, job. It's just on you.
You
It's
alone.
on you.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, God hasn't skipped a beat.
Well, you know, you look back, and even though you weren't believing in God, all the adversity you faced without him was building you up
Yeah.
for where you are today.
Yeah.
You know, he's showing in the background, like, I'm going to put this adversity on you and you're not going to believe. Like, I know that where your mindset is right now.
Yep.
But I'm building you up stronger. So whenever you do finally accept me, we're going to be even more powerful together.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly the truth. And, you know, I look back at every time I lost a job, you know, every time me and my wife had an argument, you know, every time something happened with the kids or another doctor walked in and they're like, here's what's wrong, you know? And it's like all of that, it's like God was just taking me to the spiritual gym.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And it was just heavy lifting. And the thing that if I could go back and change, like I wouldn't try to do the lifting myself.
Yes.
I would just surrender.
Yeah.
And be like, I can't lift this. You lift it.
That's my biggest, I'm not going to say testimony, but that was a big game changer in my journey with my daughter. And it's just 100% what you said while you all were in the hospital. And I've told this story on multiple podcasts, so I'm going to try to go through it as quick as I can. But
I haven't heard it, though. I want to hear it.
Okay. So, all right, I'll tell you.
Yeah, tell me.
So I was, before my daughter was born, Allie and I were church hopping. We were trying, you know, God was putting the fire on us to really, or fire under us to really start rolling for him. And so we were church hopping, trying to find our home. We finally found our home. We got involved with the church. We, you know, became members, rededicated our lives to the Lord, got baptized, and we had our daughter.
Yeah.
And then we were hit with the adversity of her rare genetic disease diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd come close with a guy at work that was a real good Christian man, good solid rock, knew the word, you know, backwards, forwards, and he seen where I was struggling. And he said, Ryan, I know you're trying to live your life for the Lord. And I was like a brand new baby deer trying to walk. You know, that was my walk with the Lord,
remember that.
Stumbling.
Yep.
And he said, I just want you to know there's going to come a day when you're not going to be able to pray. You're not going to be able to think of a prayer. You're not going to be able to do anything. But just know that God understands your tears. And I said, dude, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how hard I'm crying, I can always say a prayer in the back of my head. And he said, God understands your tears. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep.
So I went on. A couple weeks later, dude, it hit me. I was weeping. I was at home. I was by myself. Nobody else was there. And I was weeping so hard because I was thinking about my daughter and just everything she was going to have to go through. And I couldn't. The only thing I could do was hit my knees and throw my hands up to God.
Yeah.
And when I done that, because I was weeping so hard, I couldn't even think of a prayer.
You can't.
And that was all I could do was throw my hands up. And when I threw my hands up, it was literally like he came down, he picked it up and took it off of me. And I was able to stand up and look exactly other than wiping my eyes with tears and, you know, blowing my nose. Like
right.
I could continue on my day. And so right after that happened, I took the motion and how cheesy or cliche, whatever you want to say, but it's the same thing you said in the hospital. I made the motion and said, God, you take her. And I handed her to him in a motion and said, I can't do this.
Yeah.
You can't. You're her ultimate father. I'm just her earthly father.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's yours first. And, you know, like, and I made that motion. And when somebody's going through adversity and they call, you know, a lot of people reach out with diagnosis of kids like, Ryan, how did you make it through it? And how did you do this? And I'm like, I'm going to tell you all the things we done with doctors, hospitals, yada, yada. But the main thing that was so powerful for me, and like I said, how cheesy it is, hand your child or hand your problem. It doesn't even have to be a medical diagnosis.
Right.
Like your house catching on fire,
right.
you're losing your job, your electricity being shut off, whatever your issue is. I promise, I can't say this strong enough. If you hand it to him, he will handle it. And you don't have to move. Just like the lady showing up at your house and you're like, I just want electricity.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have some electricity.
And then, you know, bam,
Yeah.
Your light bill's paid for 3 months.
And what, like, you think about coincidence, right? Like, so what are the odds that God sends not just someone to come knock on your door and share the gospel, but someone who can afford to hear that and then afford to go down and put such a large amount of money on your account that you have a credit for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a coincidence.
No.
God sent exactly
The
who
correct
he
person.
intended to
Yes.
send. And that's like, that's one of the things when I was toying with this idea of, you know, should I do this on my own? Should I go to schools and go to conferences and try to make this business of it? I was talking to my wife and I said, and it's so funny because I sat her down like I was going to tell her bad news, you know, like I got a diagnosis, you know, I'm like, hey, you need to sit down for a minute. And she's like, what is going on? And I said, I think I'm going to make the leap and start this business, but I don't know. I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, me and you both know that God's going to send who he needs to send.
Wow.
And she said, and I've really been praying about that for a year. Like, it's time. It's time for you, because there were things in place where, like, you know, it was trending that way. It was leading that way.
Yeah.
And I wasn't being obedient. I was hanging on
Yeah.
to something I should have let go of
Yeah.
a while ago. And I just, when she said that, you know, I was like, all right. And I went and I typed up my resignation, and I'm going to tell you, like, my hands were shaking.
Wow.
You know, because I'd been the provider in our house for the past 7 years.
Yeah.
You know, and my hands are shaking, and I'm like, I don't know, but I trust you. I know it doesn't look like I trust you, but I trust you.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm praying that the whole time, and I turned in my resignation, and as soon as those 2 weeks are up, there's business, like a lot of it.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, I know how hard it is. I talk with other speakers. I'm in different groups with other speakers. I know how hard it's been for them to, like, get off the ground and be well known and a lot of them had told me, like, hey, you're going to make this leap. It's going to be like 7 years before you're busy. So you're going to have to find other things to do.
Yeah.
It hasn't been 7 years.
Wow.
And it's just
been 2 weeks.
It's been yeah, a little bit longer than that.
I know
now,
you've been doing it longer, but you had business 2 weeks already
into it.
Yeah.
And I'm it's so amazing because we have, so I do the speaking, but I also do other things and that, like, go along with that.
Yeah.
Trainings and stuff like that. And so, like, if an organization wants me to train somebody, I'll go do that. But we just signed a pretty big contract that will keep me busy doing trainings if there's no schools, and there's another national organization that I got off the phone with last night, and it's looking pretty good, and I'm just like, all glory to God.
Amen. Yes.
Like, how often does this happen for someone?
Yes.
And, you know, when you look back at the adversity, the traumas, the hard things, you know, I know that our rewards are in heaven. I absolutely know that, and we're not doing anything on this earth to receive rewards. But I do think God blesses us in our obedience. I do believe that he blesses us in our obedience. He hears us when we cry, you know, and he does not ignore us.
Yes.
And I think that's just the season that we're in. Will we always be in this season? I don't know.
Well, you know, there's just because you believe in God, you trust God, and you have full faith in him and let him guide every step of the way, doesn't mean you're not going to have struggles.
That's right.
Doesn't mean you're not going to have a hard.
That's right.
You're still going to have those.
Yeah.
But when you cling to him through those struggles, man, you get through them so much easier. And it's not easy by any means. It's still hard. I want our people that don't believe in God that's listening to this, just because you turn to God doesn't mean your life's going to be all fairy tales and unicorns.
No.
Like, it's still hard. You're still going to have adversities. You're still going to have deaths. You're still going to have medical diagnosis. You're still, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But man, like, cling to him. Like, it's going to be, he's going to guide you. He puts you in this situation. It's not a coincidence. He puts you in it for a reason.
Yep.
I promise you, he'll bring you out of it for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I mean, it's funny because, you know, you're saying like, you're still going to have this. So, I mean, I still have kids that have autism.
Amen. Yeah.
And it's never going to like, that's always going to be a thing.
Yes.
You know, and I still have a daughter that has type 1 diabetes, and that's always going to be one of those things that we deal with and we struggle with, and that we also thank God for.
Yeah.
You know, and there are days that just aren't easy. They're hard and they're difficult. And there's times where, you know, it's so funny because as much as we say like, I'm going to hand it to the Lord, there's moments in our day where we're like, oh, I'm so stressed out. I don't know what to do, you know, and he's having a meltdown. She's having a meltdown. Her blood sugar's low, you know, like I haven't eaten today, you know, and and then all of a sudden it's kind of like, all right, hold on a second, you know.
I thought we were giving it to the Lord.
Yeah. And I'm not even communicating with him at this point, you know? And then you got to stop and just be like, all right, give me like 3 minutes. We'll handle all of this, you know? And I say 3 minutes, but it usually turns into longer than that.
Yeah.
You know, cause you're praying specifically for things and you think, well, he's probably going and praying for himself. And I'm not. Like, I'm praying that God will give my son the emotional regulation that he needs.
Yeah.
You know, praying that he gives my daughter the calmness that she's seeking.
Yes.
You know, and like you pray for others, and that's what I've been doing. And I don't know, there's always the struggle, I guess, if that's the word, but it is like when you have a relationship with God, it's so much, I don't know, manageable. I won't say easier.
Yeah.
Because it's not easier.
Yeah.
It's manageable.
Well, walking through anything, regardless if it's climbing a mountain, driving a car,
right?
You know, anything. It's easier if you have somebody there to walk through it with you. So when you have God, you always have. Well, regardless, let me back up and check that. You've always got God. Yep. Regardless if you believe in him or not, he's there with you.
He's there.
But when you know he's there with you and you recognize that, you always feel like you have somebody walking through it with you, no matter what. And that's it makes everything so much, like you said, manageable. I'm not going to say easier. But yeah.
Because I mean, we live in this, I don't know, I feel like we live in a society where we just want it to be easy. And if it's not easy, then
give up. Yeah.
You know, and I'm telling you, it's not, nothing's easy.
Yeah.
Nothing's easy. But man, God is loving and he's full of grace and mercy. And man, I'm telling you, when you receive that, golly, it changes your life. Changes your life.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So I want to transition a little bit.
Okay.
We've gave little bits and pieces.
Yep.
And your career now is going out and like I told you all earlier, he's doing exactly what the Dad Show's goal is every single day. Yeah. And so Nathan is going out to these schools. He's, regardless if it's at a school or just out in the public, you're witnessing to the youth, and you are being that male figure, that role model, that in their life to witness to them, to be a quote unquote father, a dad. You know, even though these kids aren't yours.
Nope.
But you know that's the whole meaning of the Dad Show is yes, to become a better husband, a better father, but to be that male role model in the house or in their lives that I believe our society needs. And I believe that's a huge issue with our society is that you don't have that, like I said, quote unquote father figure. So just give everyone a little bit about your new business, which I'm excited to hear about, and What's going on?
Yeah. So I've always, for the past, I don't know, 5 years or so, I've shared my story of, you know, using drugs very early in life. 12 years old is when I started, um, and so I talk about my life when I speak to kids, and I use an acronym. I was a mechanical brave. That was my high school, and I even shared the story of not making it. You know, getting across that stage and how important it is to graduate. But I use brave as an acronym, and it's to be bold, to be resilient, to be accountable, to be vulnerable, and then to empower other people.
Wow.
And so I've been doing that at schools all over, and it's incredible to see the amount of kids that are struggling, but it's even cooler. I tell this to people all the time. I've not been to a single school when I'm done with my speech and I ask if the students have any questions. I've not been to a single school where a student doesn't raise their hand. I don't mention my faith at all in my speech. Not a single school where a student doesn't raise their hand and say, "Do you believe in Jesus?"
Wow.
In a public school setting, that opens the door for me
Yes.
to now share the gospel.
Yes.
You give me 5 minutes and I'm going to share the gospel with you, and I'm going to share it with everyone in that gym or that auditorium, whatever it is. But
Yes.
I let them open the door. I say I let them open the door. It's so funny, but God opens that door through them.
Yeah.
But it happens. It's happened at every single school so far that I've been to. Even this morning, it happened at Norwood, and so I get to go to these different schools and share my story, talk about being brave and resilient, talk about the dangers of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, and then I give schools the option. They can do workshops. So I can do some workshops in the classrooms after the assembly, or they can just do a one and done assembly. It's up to them, whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's those things, and then I have the training portion where I contract out to organizations and I will train their customers with their product, and it's just been like on the fly. But I will tell you too, you know, as the school speaking is where I'm at. Like, I know that's where God wants me to be,
Yeah.
because I see it every single day. We don't have an epidemic of drugs in our schools. We have an epidemic of loneliness.
Wow.
And I hear it every day. I see it every day. And I talk about it every single day. Last week, I was at school last week, and a student came up to me after the assembly and said, "Thank you for being here. This really helped me. I had a plan today for after school to go home and just die."
Wow.
And I asked him, you know, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, what's got you to this point?
Yeah.
New to the school, nobody talked with him, and if they did, it was negative. Ate lunch alone, didn't have any friends, missed his friends from his old school, and didn't have contact with them because he's in foster care and they won't let him have a phone, and which I think is smart. If you have toddlers right now, like, don't give them a phone until they're 18.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I connected him with a school counselor and said, "Hey, this is what's going on." And I had 2 more assemblies to do that day. And so I told myself, I'll check on you before I leave. And this is why I love my wife, that she helps me do everything. But we were getting ready to leave, had everything wrapped up, and I was out the door, and my wife said, "Don't forget, you got to check on him."
Wow.
I went, "Oh yeah, okay." So I went to the office and I asked if he could come up, and man, I'm telling you, smiling from ear to ear,
Really?
huge grin on his face, and I go, "Hey, how's the rest of your day been?" And he goes, "I ate lunch with somebody today, and now I have a friend."
Wow.
And to just help them connect
Yeah.
like that, I mean, and I look back at, as a military brat, I could walk into a school and be like, "Oh yeah, you're wearing a Cardinal shirt. I like baseball.
Yeah.
You know, where do you play?"
Yeah.
You know, like I could connect real easily. I learned how to do that. And so God's using that to help me connect kids with other kids. And it is that connection issue.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk to them, they're just lonely. And I said the other day, we live in a world right now where we are the most connected, disconnected society that's ever lived on this earth.
Yes, I agree.
Our kids are in their phones, but it's not a real true connection.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And so that's what I've been doing. And I will tell you, I've been recording myself for like Instagram and TikTok and stuff for content.
Exactly.
And it feels so weird. But I can pull up a clip on my phone. I could do it right now and let you listen to a conversation that I just had at Norwood, and you'd be like, no way. No way.
Wow.
They're not in that mindset.
Yeah.
Seriously? I mean, it's an epidemic of loneliness.
And I don't mean to cut you
No,
off
you're good.
or interrupt you, but I feel like one of the biggest things that I try to preach, and dude, I am so bad at it, but I try so hard. But when I get home, is I try to shut my phone off and put it to the side. And I'm not going to say I turn it off, because there's always that emergency call, but I try to put it somewhere where I don't hear it ring, where I, like, just, even if it's out of the picture, like in another room, and be present with my kids, be present with my wife. And, you speak about these kids, and that's where you want the truth about something, talk to a kid.
Yep. They'll give it to you.
Adults are going to shy away from it. They're not going to be harsh to you. They're not going to tell you the truth. Talk to kids, because they'll tell you the truth. And so 100%, like you said, loneliness.
Yep.
They may have a mother. They may have a father. They may have brother and sisters in the homes. They may even have a mother-in-law, or, maybe living with another family.
Right.
But because people are so in their devices, they're so in a TV, they're so distracted. Like you said, we're so connected but disconnected. We're lonely.
Yeah.
And the kids are showing it. It's proven every day through the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Is that these kids are letting us know that they need more. And so that's one thing that I try to do is, even if I have a text message or a phone call or an email, whatever it may be, that I'm on my phone and I need to, like, for what we do, I may need to answer that.
Right.
But I literally try to either say, pull away from the phone and give them my full face, my full attention. Like, hang on just a second. I need to finish this. I'll be with you. Promise. And I'll do that, put the phone away, and okay. Now, instead of, they're coming up talking, okay, all right, I'll get to you, no. Put it away and give them your full attention.
Yeah. And I will tell you that when I talk to kids, they talk about their guardians or their parents being mad at them for being on devices. They're just as upset with their guardians for being on devices.
Yes.
They're over it. And one of the ways that they deal with it is they go back to their devices.
Yeah.
And there's research now that shows us that 74% of the kids that vape, they own a vape device. They don't borrow it, they own it. But about 72% of them that were surveyed in this study that owned vape devices borrowed vape devices, which tells us they're seeking connection.
Yes, yeah.
Even though they own one, they're going to go use one with somebody else because they need that connection.
Yes.
They're desiring that connection. They want it.
Yeah.
And they're not getting it. And we're in this world of technology now, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere we go. I mean, you can get Wi-Fi just about anywhere, and they have it. And a lot of times, I know that my dad, when I'd be home from school or something, he'd put me in front of the TV, right? Like, go over there. You got ADHD. You go over there and you just watch that TV for a while.
Yeah.
But even that's different, because at some point you get up and you go outside.
Yes.
And you'd go hang out with your friends. You go run around the block or whatever. And now today, it just doesn't work like that.
Well, we had to go outside or go in the neighborhood to get that connection with our peers.
Yep.
Now they can put on a headset and
Yep.
they can play their video game. They can play the basketball game. Like you don't have to go outside.
Right.
But the vitamin D and just what you gain from being outside and nature and everything else and the fresh air and man, like invaluable.
And they're not getting it.
Yes.
And it's not. There's some that do, but I would say there's a lot of issues that are just barriers to them getting those things. Maybe mom and dad are divorced.
Yes.
Maybe they live with grandparents because their mom and dad passed away from an overdose. The amount of kids that live with their grandparents today is astronomical.
Yes.
I mean, it's huge. And, I love my kids and they know that I love them. And, it's the other night, my wife came home, had a long day, and my youngest daughter was like, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm not taking you anywhere. Like I just got home. I'm not taking you anywhere. And I saw that as my opportunity to go, hey, let's go. Like, where you want to go, let's go. And we just hung out and we just talked. And one of the questions that I always tell guardians parents that they should ask, first of all, open-ended questions. You need to be asking your kids open-ended questions, not just how was school, but more like something like, what was something that happened at school today that made you happy?
Wow.
What was something that happened at school today that made you sad?
That's so good.
Because it gives you some insight into their emotions, but it also allows you to kind of help them manage those emotions.
Yeah. I'm so good about asking my kids how their day was at school. I haven't thought about those those questions like that. That's good.
The only reason I even know that is because what I've been doing for the past 7 years, but I thought about like how a car salesman is going to ask you open-ended questions. And why do they do that? They want to know what drives you emotionally.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
if we care about our children's emotions, we need to know what drives them emotionally.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
And so, I say this to parents, guardians all the time. One of the questions that you should be asking is there anything I could be doing better or different? And just let them answer. Give them time, give them space to answer, but be in the right frame of mind where you can deal with the answers.
Wow.
Because as a guardian, as a parent, we don't have it all together.
No.
We don't.
You're learning every day.
You're learning every day.
Yeah.
And if there's something that we're not doing right, or we're doing something to where it's causing them stress, and we can fix it.
Yes.
We need to give them the opportunity and the space to say, hey, remember the other day when you came home and you were mad that you had told me to do the dishes and they weren't done, but you didn't even ask me like what happened at school today, or what made me sad at school today.
Yes.
And I've been bullied all day.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but if you come home and you don't see the dishes done and that's my chore, can you check in with me first before you kind of go off the handle? That, I'd rather my kids tell me that.
Yes.
Than I come in and be like, why aren't these dishes done? Like, that's your chore. I told you to do that. And then they're like, because I don't want to do the dishes, and then you're in this divide and you have division in your house.
Yes.
And man, I'm telling you, if you just ask open-ended questions, you will dive into this world with your kids that you did not know existed.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
They'll tell you. They will tell you. You just have to be invested and interested.
Yes.
They'll tell you.
Be present.
Be present.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the right word.
We invest in so many other things that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That, like you said, we need to invest and be present with our kids in that way.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's so huge.
My youngest daughter she's homeschooled because, her blood sugar issues, and they would send her home a lot. And so we decided to homeschool her. And at first she was very resistant to that. And now she's like on board. She's all over it. But I'm going to a school on Friday, and it's a ways away. And she asked me on Monday. She said, "Hey, I don't have to work on Friday. Can I go with you? Like, can I help you like set up and carry everything in?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely."
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for that she feels comfortable enough. Like, 'cause how how many families is it okay to walk in and be like, hey, can I go with you? Or, you know, and thankfully I have this job to where, you know, every day is take your kid to work day.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
You can do it if you want to.
Yeah.
And so like that'll be our opportunity to drive 4 hours and just have conversations.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, what do you love about living in our home? What do you love about, whatever it is, like, what do you love about your job?
Yeah.
What do you not like about your job?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and you just dive into what they're going through. And if you listen, like actively listen,
Yes.
like we're doing, these conversations happen.
Yeah.
You know, and
Exactly.
and it's you just open up this whole new world with your kids. But I'm telling you, if you come home and you've had a long day and you get on your phone because you want to de-stress, or you turn on your favorite show, or you got the game on and you're like, don't bother me, I got the game on. Your kids are going to know
Yes.
you're not to be bothered at any point, and they're going to start looking for other
Avenues
to connect.
Yep.
And it's not a spot you want to be in with your kids.
Brandon Janice was on the podcast last week, and
Now, thank you for watching part 2, and come back tomorrow to watch part 3. Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast. Please like, review, and subscribe.